My fiancée said, "I'm postponing the wedding. You need to be making $150,000 before I'll marry you." I made $87,000 as a teacher. I said, "I understand." Then I returned the ring, bought a house, and started dating a fellow teacher who valued me. When my ex saw my new relationship and homeownership posts, original post, I, 32 male, am a high school history teacher. Have been for 9 years. I make $87,400 a year, which in my district with my experience and master's degree is actually on the higher end for educators. I'm not rich. I know that. But I own a reliable truck. I have 0 credit card debt. I got a solid retirement account through the state pension system. And until recently, I had about $40,000 in savings that I've been building since my mid-20s. I budget. I plan. I'm boring with money, and I'm fine with that. My ex-fiancée and I were together for 3.5 years. She works in pharmaceutical sales, makes good money, somewhere around $120,000 with commission. She was always the higher earner, and I never had a problem with that. Genuinely. I tell people, yeah, she out-earns me, good for her, and mean it. I didn't tie my identity to my paycheck. I tied it to the fact that I spend my days teaching teenagers about the civil rights movement and watching the light bulb go on when they finally understand why it matters. That's my thing. That's what I'm good at. We got engaged 14 months ago. I proposed with a ring I'd spent $6,200 on, saved for it separately over about a year. She said yes. We celebrated. We started planning. I was happy. Legitimately, deeply happy. The wedding planning is where the cracks showed up. She wanted a big wedding. Not insane, but big. Around 180 guests, nice venue, open bar, live band, the works. The quotes we were getting were in the $55,000 to $65,000 range. I said I could contribute about $20,000 from my savings, and we could figure out the rest between us and whatever her parents offered. Her parents said they'd chip in $10,000. She didn't think my contribution was enough. Not in a subtle way either. She said, and this is close to a direct quote, $20,000? For your own wedding? That's embarrassing. I explained that $20,000 was half my savings and that I'd been building that safety net for years. She said I should find a way to make more if I wanted the wedding she deserved. I let that comment slide because wedding planning makes everyone crazy. At least that's what I told myself. Over the next few months, the comments got sharper. She started comparing me to her co-workers' husbands. So-and-so's husband just got promoted to VP. My colleague's fiancé makes $200,000 in tech. She'd bring up my salary at dinner parties in this joking but not really way. He's a teacher, so, we're not exactly rolling in it. With this laugh that made my skin crawl, I kept swallowing it. I shouldn't have. But when you love someone, you let things build up that you shouldn't. Then, about 3 months ago, she sat me down in our apartment. We were renting together, split the rent 50-50, even though she made more, and delivered the speech that ended us. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I need to say it. I think we should postpone the wedding. Me, okay. What? I just feel like, financially, we're not where I need us to be. Specifically you. Me. What does that mean, specifically? I think you need to be making at least $150,000 before I'm comfortable walking down the aisle. I need to know my partner can provide at a certain level. I sat there for a second. Just sat there. Me. I'm a public school teacher with a master's degree. $150,000 isn't a raise. That's an entire career change. Then maybe that's what needs to happen. Me. You want me to quit teaching? I want you to be realistic. Teaching is noble or whatever, but it's not a career that builds the life I want. Me. The life you want. The life we both should want. I looked at her for a long time. She was completely serious. No hint of doubt on her face. She'd clearly rehearsed this. She had a whole financial vision for our future, and I wasn't in it. At least, not the version of me that currently existed. So I said, I understand. She looked relieved, like she thought I was agreeing to her terms. Me, I understand that you just told me who you are. Give me a few days. Her face changed real quick, but I was already standing up and grabbing my keys. I drove to my buddy's house. He's a shop teacher in my school, been my best friend for years, and sat in his garage and told him everything. He listened, cracked 2 beers, handed me one, and said, "Brother, she doesn't want a husband. She wants a salary with legs." I slept on his couch that night. Over the next week, I did the following things in order. 1. I went to the jeweler where I bought the ring. Store policy was no cash refunds after 90 days, but they'd give me store credit. I negotiated, showed them the original receipt, the certification, explained my situation honestly. The manager, older guy, been there forever, looked at me and said, "I've seen this before, son," and gave me a cash refund of $5,800. Not the full $6,200, but I wasn't going to argue over $400 when a man was doing me a favor. 2. I contacted a real estate agent. I've been casually looking at houses for months because home prices in my area had dipped slightly and my credit score was 761. With my savings, the ring refund, and a teacher's FHA loan program that my district participates in, I could put together a solid down payment on a modest 3-bedroom. I found one. Older house, needed some cosmetic work, but structurally sound and in a decent school district. Listed at $215,000. I offered $208,000 and they took it. 3. I told my ex I was moving out. This was about 2 weeks after her ultimatum. She seemed genuinely shocked, like she'd expected me to come back with a plan to double my income, not a plan to leave. Her, "You're moving out? Where are you going?" Me, "I bought a house." Her, "You what?" Me, "I bought a house." With the money I had saved. The money that wasn't enough for the wedding you wanted, but was apparently enough for a mortgage down payment. Funny how that works. Her, "You spent our wedding savings on a house." Me, "My savings. There was no wedding. You postponed it, remember? Indefinitely. Until I became a different person with a different career and a different paycheck. I just accepted the terms." She started crying and said I was making a huge mistake and that she didn't mean it like that. I told her I wasn't angry, and weirdly, I wasn't, but that I couldn't unhear what she'd said. She'd put a price tag on our future, and I came up short. No amount of backpedaling changes the fact that she meant every word. I was moved out within 10 days. The closing on the house took about 5 weeks total. During that time, I stayed with my buddy, the shop teacher. He helped me move. Didn't charge me a dime for the couch. That's friendship. Now here's the part one didn't plan. At my school, there's a second-year English teacher. She'd been hired the previous fall, and I'd noticed her in the way you notice someone who's smart and kind and laughs at things that are actually funny. We'd talked in the teacher's lounge, served on a curriculum committee together, chaperoned a school dance where we spent most of the night making fun of how bad the DJ was. Nothing happened while I was engaged. I want to be crystal clear about that. I didn't even entertain the thought. But about a month after I'd moved into my house, we ended up at a school happy hour, and she asked, casually, if I was still with my fiancée. I said no. She said she was sorry to hear that. I said I wasn't. She laughed. We talked for 3 hours, and I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time, like someone was interested in me, not in what I could theoretically become. We started dating. Slowly. She makes about $52,000 as a second-year teacher. She drives a 10-year-old Civic. She spends her weekends grading papers and coaching the school's debate team for a $1,200 annual stipend. She's the kind of person who gets excited about a student's improvement and texts me about it at 9 p.m. On our third date, I cooked dinner in my new house, and she brought a bottle of $11 wine and a card game, and we stayed up until 1 a.m. laughing. That was the best date I've been on in my entire life, and it cost maybe $35 total. 2 months into dating, I posted a photo. Not a strategic move. I genuinely just wanted to share it. It was us on my back porch, her sitting in a camp chair with papers in her lap, my dog at her feet. Caption was something like, "Saturday grading sessions hit different when there's company." And that's when my ex lost her mind. I'll save that for the update. Update 1, 8 days later. The response to the original post was wild. A lot of teachers in the comments saying they related to the salary shame, and that meant a lot to me. This job gets disrespected enough without the person sleeping next to you doing it too. All right, the fallout. So the porch photo went up on a Sunday evening. By Monday morning, I had a text from a number I hadn't deleted yet, my ex. I'd blocked her on social media, but apparently not her phone number. Oversight on my part. Her text, So you had enough money for a house and new girlfriend, but not enough for our wedding? Wow. Just wow. I didn't respond. But she wasn't done. Second text, for minutes later. That house should have been OURS. That down payment was supposed to be our future. You basically stole from our relationship. Third text. And she's a teacher? You downgraded from me to another teacher? Enjoy being broke together, I guess. I screenshot everything. Not because I had a plan, but because my buddy told me months ago to document everything and it had become habit. Then I blocked her number. Should have done it sooner, but here we are. Now, let me explain something about my ex that I didn't fully appreciate until he broke up. She has a very specific social circle. Her friends are mostly other pharma sales reps and their partners, finance guys, tech guys, people who talk about Q3 numbers at brunch. Her entire social identity was built around being part of this upwardly mobile crew. And within that group, having a fiancé who was just a teacher had apparently been a source of embarrassment she'd been managing for years. I know this because after the breakup, one of her friends, a woman I'd actually gotten along with at parties, reached out to me and said, "I just want you to know, she used to complain about your salary constantly when you weren't around. Like every girl's night. It wasn't a new thing. She'd been saying she was going to fix your career for at least 2 years. That hit different. 2 years of behind-my-back salary shaming while smiling at me across the dinner table. Cool. Anyway, the porch photo. Here's what I didn't know when I posted it. My ex still had mutual friends who followed me. Within a day, she'd seen not just the photo, but also the comments. My girlfriend, the English teacher, had commented a little heart emoji. My buddy, the shop teacher, had commented, "The house looks great, brother." A few other teacher friends had left nice comments. It was just normal people being normal. But to my ex, it was apparently an attack on her personally. Day 3 after the photo, I got a call from my ex's best friend, a woman I met maybe 6 or 7 times. She called me from her own number, which I found bold. Her, "Hey, I'm calling because my friend is really struggling, and I think you need to know that." Me, "I'm sorry to hear that, but we're not together anymore. Her emotional state isn't my responsibility." Her, "She feels like you did all of this, the house, the new girl, to spite her." Me, "I bought a house because I had savings and good credit. I'm dating someone because I met someone I like. Neither of those things have anything to do with your friend." Her, "But the timing. You have to admit the timing looks intentional." Me, "The timing is the direct result of your friend telling me I wasn't worth marrying until I made $150,000. I took her at her word and moved on. That's not spite. That's listening." She got quiet. Then she said, "She didn't mean it like that. She just wanted you to be more ambitious." Me, "I have a master's degree, 9 years of my career, a pension, 0 debt, and I just bought a house at 32. If that's not ambitious enough, then we have different dictionaries." She didn't have a response to that. The call ended shortly after. Day 6. This is where it gets genuinely unhinged. My ex showed up at my house. Not my apartment. She didn't even know the address. She found it. I don't know how. Maybe through mutual friends. Maybe she drove around the area looking for my truck. Either way, she was in my driveway on Saturday morning when I opened the front door to grab the mail. Her, "We need to talk." Me, "No, we don't." Her, "I made a mistake, okay? I said the wrong thing. But you didn't have to blow up our entire life over one conversation." Me, "It wasn't one conversation. It was 3.5 years of you being embarrassed by what I do for a living, and one conversation where you finally said it out loud." Her, "I was never embarrassed by." Me, "Your friend told me you complained about my salary at every girl's night for 2 years. You compared me to your coworkers' husbands at dinner parties. You called my wedding contribution embarrassing. You told me to quit the career I love so I could hit an income number that would make you comfortable. That's not one bad conversation. That's a pattern." She stood in my driveway and stared at me. Then she looked at the house, really looked at it, and I could see something shift in her face. Not remorse. Calculation. She was doing math. She was looking at the house and realizing that the man she dismissed as financially inadequate had just purchased property. Her, "This is a nice house." Me, "Yeah, it is." Her, "We could have had this together." Me, "We could have. But it wasn't enough for you. I wasn't enough for you." And I'm not going to stand in my own driveway and be auditioned again. She started crying. Real tears, I think. But I'd seen her cry before to get her way, and I couldn't tell the difference anymore, which is a terrible thing to realize about someone you once loved. Me, you need to leave. I'm not being cruel. I'm just done. She left. I went inside, and my hands were shaking. Not going to pretend that was easy. It wasn't. Seeing someone you planned a life with standing in the driveway of the life you built without them. That's heavy regardless of who was right. My girlfriend came over that evening. I told her what happened. She didn't freak out, didn't get jealous, didn't make it about her. She just sat on the couch with me and said, "That sounds like it was really hard. Do you want to talk about it? Or do you want to watch something dumb on TV?" We watched 3 episodes of a cooking competition, and she fell asleep on my shoulder. That's the difference. That's the whole difference, right there. But my ex wasn't done. Because of course she wasn't. More in the final update. Update 2. Final, 16 days later. Okay, last one. I'm closing this chapter. After the driveway visit, I genuinely thought things would settle. She'd said her piece. I'd said mine. We'd both move on. But I underestimated how much my ex's identity was tied to the narrative she'd built, and how threatening it was to her when reality contradicted it. About 5 days after the driveway, I got a text from a colleague at school. Another history teacher, older guy, been teaching for 20-something years. He sent me a screenshot and said, "Thought you should see this." It was a post in a private Facebook group for local professionals. One of those networking groups where people share job leads and industry gossip. My ex had made a post. She didn't use my name, but she described a recent ex who was a public school teacher who had secretly been hoarding money throughout the relationship and bought a house with money that should have gone toward our shared future. She implied I'd been financially deceptive and that I'd moved on suspiciously fast, probably had someone lined up already. So now I was a cheating financial hoarder. Great. The post had about 15 comments when my colleague screenshot it. Most were sympathetic to her. "So sorry you're going through this. Men are trash." The usual. A couple of people asked probing questions like, "Were you on the title for the savings account?" And she conveniently didn't answer those. I sat with this for a full day. I wasn't going to engage publicly. I'd already decided that. But I also wasn't going to let a false narrative about my character float around a local professional group unchecked. I'm a teacher. My reputation in the community actually matters for my career. So I did something very specific. I called the one mutual friend who'd been honest with me, the woman who told me about the girls' night salary complaints. I asked her if she'd be willing to confirm, if it ever came up, that my ex had explicitly told me to postpone the wedding until I earned $150,000, and that the money I used for the house was my personal savings that predated the relationship. She said yes. She also said she'd already seen the Facebook post and was disgusted by the spin. Then I did the thing that actually mattered. My school district runs a teacher appreciation program every spring. Local businesses sponsor it. The school board does a little ceremony, and they highlight teachers who've gone above and beyond. My department head had nominated me months earlier for a curriculum initiative I'd led, a project where my AP history students partnered with a local veterans organization to record and preserve oral histories. It was a big deal. The local paper covered it when the students presented their work at a community event. I'd kind of forgotten about the nomination because life had been chaotic. Well, I won. Teacher of the Year for my district. The announcement went out in the school newsletter, on the district social media pages, and because of the Veterans Oral History Project, the local news affiliate did a short segment on it. 2 minutes, nothing major. Me in my classroom, students talking about the project, the principal saying nice things. I didn't orchestrate the timing. I want to be very clear about that. The nomination happened before the breakup. The selection process had nothing to do with my personal life. But the timing was, and I say this with full awareness of the irony, almost poetic. Because that news segment and the social media post about it went out the same week my ex's Facebook narrative was circulating. And the contrast was devastating for her without me lifting a finger. Here's the post she wrote. My ex was a teacher who was secretly hoarding money and probably cheating. And here's what the actual public record showed. a man being recognized by his community for 9 years of dedicated teaching and a project that connected students with veterans. 3 people in that Facebook group saw the news coverage and connected the dots. One of them commented on my ex's post. Wait, is this the teacher who just won District Teacher of the Year? The one who did the Veterans Project? Because if so, this post reads very differently. Another person commented, I saw that news segment. That man seems like a genuinely good person. Something about this story doesn't add up. My ex deleted the post within hours. But the screenshots lived on, because they always do. Here's the consequence she didn't see coming. And it's the one that actually stung her. Her professional networking group, the same one where she'd posted about me, has members who overlap with her company's client base. The pharmaceutical industry in any region is a surprisingly small world. 2 of her regional accounts are managed through relationships she'd built in that exact group. When her post got connected to the Teacher of the Year story, it didn't just make her look petty. It made her look dishonest. And in sales, your reputation for honesty is literally your entire career. I heard through the mutual friend grapevine, not from anyone at her company, just through people who know people, that her manager had a conversation with her about social media judgment after a client mentioned the situation casually at a lunch meeting. I don't know what was said. I don't know if there were formal consequences. And honestly, I don't care. I didn't report her. I didn't contact her employer. I didn't send anyone screenshots. Her own post in her own professional group in front of her own clients did the damage. I was just the teacher she'd underestimated. The last direct contact I had was about a week after the Teacher of the Year announcement. My ex sent me an email. She'd apparently found my school email address on the district website. The email was 3 paragraphs long, and the tone swung wildly between anger and sadness. The core message was, you were supposed to grow with me. I was trying to push you to be better. You chose comfort over ambition, and now you're being celebrated for the very thing I was trying to get you to move past. I read it twice. The second time, I actually felt something close to pity. Not because she was wrong about what she wanted. Everyone's allowed to want financial security. But because she was so locked into her definition of success that she couldn't see any other kind. She looked at a man who'd built a stable life, earned community respect, owned a home, and found a partner who loved him exactly as he was. And her honest reaction was, that's not enough. That's not a person I can help. That's not even a person I can be angry at anymore. That's just someone who's going to keep chasing a number and wondering why it never feels like arriving. I didn't respond to the email. I forwarded it to my personal account for documentation purposes and then archived it. Here's where I am now. The house needs work. The kitchen faucet drips, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to replace the water heater before winter. My girlfriend and I painted the guest bedroom last weekend, and she got more paint on herself and on the walls, which she insists was an artistic choice. My dog, a 3-year-old mutt I adopted the week after I moved in, has already destroyed 1 couch cushion, and I can't even be mad about it because he looks so proud of himself. I make $87,400 a year. My girlfriend makes $52,000. Together, we make $139,400, which is still short of my ex's benchmark for marriage worthiness, and I find that genuinely hilarious. I teach 5 classes a day. I coach academic decathlon in the spring. I'm starting a new oral history project next semester focused on immigration stories from our school community. Last week, a kid in my 3rd period, a junior who'd been struggling all year, turned in a paper on Reconstruction that was so good I read it twice during my lunch break. I emailed his mom to tell her. She wrote back, "Thank you for believing in him." That email is worth more than any salary number anyone could throw at me. My ex wanted me to become someone else. I just became more of who I already was. Turns out that was more than enough. That's the whole story. Thanks for reading.